Have you ever felt like the person you care about slips away the moment you get close? It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it runs through your fingers. Avoidance can make you feel invisible one moment and unforgettable the next. And here's the truth: you don't need to chase, beg, or prove your worth. What you need is one shift, a phrase, a way of communicating that flips the script in their mind. A phrase that makes them stop, think, and feel that magnetic pull back toward you. The first key point is about planting curiosity in the mind of the avoidant, and this works because curiosity is one of the strongest psychological triggers known to human nature. When you say something that feels slightly incomplete, a phrase that opens a door without fully revealing what's behind it, you create an irresistible pull. Avoidants by nature don't like being pressured or boxed in, but they are still human beings, and human beings are drawn to mysteries. If you can tap into that natural drive for answers without sounding needy or desperate, you suddenly position yourself as someone they want to engage with rather than someone they feel they need to escape from. Think about it. When you read the first chapter of a book and the author sets up a compelling question but doesn't answer it right away, your mind keeps reaching back, wondering what happens next. That is the effect you want your words to have on the avoidant. Instead of giving them everything up front, you leave a thread dangling so their curiosity pulls them closer. This is not about playing games, but about using psychology with respect. Imagine you say something like, "I realized something about us today, but I'll share it later." You haven't made a demand, you haven't begged for attention, you've simply dropped a seed of curiosity that starts to grow in their mind. An avoidant may pull away when they sense emotional intensity, but when you approach them through the door of curiosity, they don't feel trapped. Instead, they feel invited to lean in and figure out what you mean. You are, in effect, flipping the dynamic. Normally, the avoidant keeps you in a state of wondering where they stand, but with the right phrase, you turn the tables in a gentle way, making them wonder what you're really thinking. It creates an imbalance in the best possible way, one that draws them back toward you without you ever having to chase. The beauty of this approach is that it also keeps your own power intact. Rather than laying all your feelings on the table in the hope that they will respond, you are holding something back, and that creates magnetism. People value what feels scarce, and when you don't reveal everything at once, you create that sense of value around your presence and your words. The avoidant starts to think about you in those quiet moments, asking themselves, what did they mean? Why did they say that? And that repeated thought is where emotional attachment begins to form. You're not forcing connection, you're allowing them to step into the space you've created. To make this work, it's important that your tone stays calm, confident, and light. If you sound anxious, manipulative, or frustrated, the avoidant will sense it immediately and retreat further. The power lies in casual confidence, in being able to drop the phrase and then truly let it go without obsessing over their response. When they realize you aren't waiting by the phone, they will lean in because they want the answer. It's the same reason cliffhangers work in movies and shows. You don't have to beg people to come back. They return on their own because their curiosity has already hooked them. By using this principle in your interactions, you transform the energy between you and the avoidant from one of pressure and withdrawal into one of intrigue and pursuit. When it comes to avoidance, the timing of your words often carries more weight than the words themselves. You can say the most powerful phrase in the world, but if you deliver it when they feel cornered, pressured, or suffocated, it will fall flat. Avoidants thrive on space. They need to feel they are the ones moving closer by choice, not by force. That's why understanding the rhythm of their emotional patterns becomes critical. It's like surfing. You don't fight the wave, you align with it. If you speak when their defenses are down, when their curiosity is rising, your words suddenly feel magnetic. The phrase that might have been ignored yesterday suddenly feels irresistible today. It's not manipulation, it's emotional intelligence. It's knowing that when you approach them from a place of calm self-possession rather than urgency, they sense the difference instantly. Think about the times when you've leaned in too much, when you were eager to fix things or make them open up. What happened? They pulled away. Not because you did something wrong. in essence, but because the timing was off, they weren't ready to receive. On the flip side, imagine moments when you were busy with your own life, not overanalyzing, and you casually dropped a simple but profound phrase. Suddenly their ears perked up, their mind replayed it over and over. That's the paradox. When you speak at the right moment with no hidden agenda, it cuts through their walls. They can't resist it, not because it's a trick, but because it feels aligned with their need for autonomy and their hidden craving for connection. What makes timing so powerful is that avoidants are not immune to emotional resonance. They're just highly protective of it. When you say the right phrase at the wrong time, their walls are too thick to let it in. But when you say it in a moment of openness, when they're a little curious, when they've had some space, when they're reflecting quietly, that phrase slides into their subconscious like a seed planted in fertile soil. It starts to grow there, replaying in their mind, haunting them in the best possible way. They might not even respond right away, but you've shifted something deep within them. They begin to see you differently. Not as someone who pressures, but as someone who understands them on a deeper level than most people ever bother to. Timing also speaks volumes about your own inner power. If you can hold back and wait for the moment, you signal patience, self-control, and confidence. You're no longer rushing to get a reaction. Instead, you're choosing the moment that matters. That restraint makes you stand out. Most people chase avoidance with desperation, flooding them with words. But you wait, and when you finally speak, your words land like a thunderclap. It's not about flooding their mind, it's about striking once, precisely, and letting it echo. That's the essence of influence with an avoidant. It's not the loudest voice that gets through, it's the voice that speaks at the right time. When you begin to understand the emotional wiring of an avoidant, you realize that their pullback is not an attack on you, but rather a defense mechanism deeply rooted in their fear of closeness. At their core, they crave intimacy like anyone else, but they fear being swallowed by it. That's why when you attempt to close the gap with force, they retreat further. The secret isn't in demanding connection, it's in communicating in a way that gives them the gift of space while planting seeds of curiosity. A single phrase, carefully chosen, can work like a key, unlocking a guarded door without making them feel trapped. The art here lies in balancing detachment with intrigue, giving them something to lean toward instead of something to run away from. Imagine saying to an avoidant, "I enjoy your energy when we're together, but I also love having my own world to focus on." Do you notice the shift? Instead of signaling neediness or pressure, you've just told them two powerful things. First, that you appreciate their presence, and second, that you don't depend on it. This immediately changes the dynamic. You're no longer seen as someone trying to invade their space, you're someone who respects it. At the same time, you've created a paradox in their mind. If you're not clinging, if you have your own world, then they have to wonder what that world looks like without them, and whether they might want to be part of it. Avoidants are often drawn in by mystery, but not the kind that feels manipulative. They are intrigued by independence. They find safety when someone shows they can stand strong on their own, yet they also find themselves curious when that strength is paired with warmth. Words that blend appreciation with freedom are like an open invitation without obligation. The phrase doesn't demand pursuit, but it makes them want to step closer on their own terms. That's the psychology behind why one sentence can shift the whole interaction. It appeals to their desire for autonomy while also lighting a spark of interest. This approach flips the script. Instead of being the one chasing validation, you position yourself as someone grounded, fulfilled, and content whether they step forward or not. That subtle energy is magnetic. It tells the avoidant that you are safe to connect with because you won't drain them or smother them. At the same time, it challenges them because they can sense you won't wait around endlessly. Your independence becomes the flame that attracts them, and your phrasing becomes the oxygen that keeps it alive. So the true power of this phrase lies not in the words alone, but in the way it makes the avoidant feel. They don't feel trapped, they feel intrigued. They don't feel judged, they feel valued. And in that delicate balance, something remarkable happens. They start leaning in, not because you forced them to, but because you've awakened a natural curiosity and desire within them. That is how the right phrase becomes the trigger for pursuit. When you think about what really pulls an avoidant back toward you, it's not grand gestures, dramatic confessions, or 1,000 unanswered texts. It's often something so small, yet so powerful, that it slips right past their defenses. That's where the concept of planting seeds of curiosity comes into play. Avoidants don't like being told what to do. They don't like being forced into closeness, but they do love a puzzle. They thrive when their mind has something to chew on, something unsolved, something that lingers in the background no matter how much they try to push it away. The secret lies in giving them just enough to make them wonder without ever spelling out the whole picture. Think about how a movie trailer works. It doesn't tell you the entire plot. It gives you flashes, emotions, unanswered questions that leave you saying, "I need to see what happens." That's exactly how you want your words to land with an avoidant. A single sentence, a subtle phrase, can stick in their mind far longer than any declaration of love ever would. When you craft your communication with this energy, you're not chasing them. You're inviting them to lean in, to ask themselves, what did they mean by that? Why did they say it that way? And the more they think about it, the more they naturally start to gravitate toward you. This is why curiosity is such a powerful emotional hook. Unlike pressure, it doesn't feel suffocating. Unlike silence, it doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like intrigue. It wakes up a part of them that they can't fully control, their imagination. Imagine saying something like, "You'll understand one day why I smiled at that moment," and then leaving it at that, or casually dropping, "There's more to me than you think, but I'll let you figure that out." These statements don't demand a response. They don't beg for attention, but they leave the door open to endless interpretation. And the avoidant, who often struggles with closeness, now finds themselves pulled toward you. Not because you pushed, but because you left them with something unresolved. The beauty of curiosity is that it doesn't just work in the moment, it lingers. An avoidant might try to distract themselves, go back into their shell, convince themselves they don't care, but then in the quiet moments your words echo. They wonder, what did they mean? Was that about me? Do they still think about me? And this wondering slowly eats at the walls they built. Instead of you knocking on the door, they start cracking it open from the inside. Another layer to this is body language and tone. Sometimes the phrase itself is less important than how you deliver it. A slight pause, a smile that suggests you know something they don't, or a calm confidence in your voice can spark that same intrigue. You're not giving them the whole story. You're giving them a breadcrumb trail, and the avoidant, whether they admit it or not, wants to follow. The goal isn't to manipulate, it's to create space for them to engage with you on their own terms. And when you master the art of curiosity, you stop being someone who chases and start being someone they can't stop thinking about. Key point 5 centers on the art of emotional mirroring, a subtle yet powerful tool that makes the avoidant feel both understood and safe without feeling pressured. An avoidant personality often fears being engulfed or losing their independence, so the way you present your emotions around them can either make them retreat or lean closer. When you use emotional mirroring, you are not copying their words or actions like a child mimicking another, but rather reflecting their underlying state back in a way that communicates empathy without suffocation. This works because avoidants, despite their defensive walls, deeply long to feel validated in their emotions, but they are highly sensitive to any sign that someone is trying to control or change them. When they notice that you are attuned to their state of mind without trying to alter it, they relax. That relaxation is the foundation of trust, and trust is the doorway that allows them to pursue you instead of running away. Think of a moment when an avoidant withdraws after a conflict or becomes quiet during an emotionally charged situation. The common instinct for most people is to push harder, to demand explanations, or to offer reassurance in an almost overwhelming way. But this usually backfires, making the avoidant feel cornered. Instead, emotional mirroring might look like calmly acknowledging their space with something like, "I sense you need a little time right now, and that's okay." Notice that this doesn't force them into a response, nor does it minimize what they're feeling. It simply reflects back the emotional temperature they are giving off. Over time, these small moments of recognition build up a pattern where the avoidant feels emotionally safe with you. And when someone feels safe, they don't run, they move closer. Emotional mirroring is also about pacing. If they are moving slowly, you don't rush ahead. If they are expressing vulnerability in small drops, you don't flood them with an ocean of emotions in return. This isn't about manipulation. It's about aligning with their rhythm so they feel like you are walking beside them instead of pulling them by the arm. Imagine dancing with a partner who is hesitant and cautious. If you yank them across the floor, they will resist. But if you match their steps, gently guiding while respecting their pace, they eventually loosen up and begin to enjoy the movement. This is exactly how mirroring works in emotional dynamics with an avoidant. Another dimension of emotional mirroring lies in your nonverbal cues. Avoidants often pick up more on tone, body language, and energy than on words. If they are soft-spoken and reserved in a moment of vulnerability, responding with calm energy instead of loud enthusiasm communicates alignment. If they are expressing frustration in short, clipped words, reflecting a calm but serious presence shows you are tuned in without escalating their tension. It's the silent communication that does most of the work here. When your presence communicates, "I get you, I respect where you are right now," the avoidant feels an unusual comfort they rarely experience. That comfort is what draws them closer because it feels like a relief from the pressure they constantly anticipate from others. Ultimately, emotional mirroring transforms how the avoidant perceives you. Instead of being another person who threatens their space or demands their immediate vulnerability, you become the one who seems to get it without having to be told. That makes you unforgettable in their mind. Long after the moment has passed, they recall that sense of safety you created. It lingers with them and it sparks curiosity. They begin to wonder why they feel different around you, why they don't feel the same urge to escape, and why, instead, they find themselves reaching back out. That shift from defensiveness to pursuit is the quiet magic of emotional mirroring, and when practiced with patience and authenticity, it becomes one of the most powerful ways to unlock the hidden desire of an avoidant to come closer on their own terms. When we reach the final key, the one that transforms everything, it's about planting the seed of curiosity and leaving it to grow in their mind. Avoidants are deeply motivated by curiosity. When everything feels predictable, safe, and overly available, they don't feel compelled to move closer. But when a phrase, a tone, or a subtle shift leaves them with a question, an itch they cannot scratch, suddenly their energy shifts. They start replaying your words in their head, wondering why you said what you said and what it truly meant. This is not about manipulation. It's about reminding them that you are not an open book to be skimmed once and put aside. You are a mystery, a story that unfolds slowly, and that story compels them to turn the next page. The secret phrase works best when it is designed not to give them all the answers immediately. For example, saying something like, "You'll understand when the time is right," or "There's more to me than you've seen so far," creates a magnetic pull. Why? Because it speaks directly to their unconscious drive for freedom, while also hinting that there's something they might miss if they step too far away. The beauty of this approach is that it does not demand or beg for attention. Instead, it respects their need for space while simultaneously drawing them closer. They begin to pursue not because you told them to, but because you awakened a natural, powerful force within them, the desire to discover. Avoidants, at their core, struggle with trust and intimacy, but they are also wired to respond to newness and intrigue. Curiosity cuts through their defenses like nothing else. Imagine them hearing your phrase and hours later still turning it over in their mind. It lingers like a song they can't stop humming. The very fact that they can't resolve the mystery right away keeps you at the forefront of their thoughts. And as time passes, that small question mark you planted grows into a full-blown pursuit. They want to know more, they want to figure it out, and without realizing it, they start moving toward you instead of away. The art of triggering curiosity also lies in delivery. It's not just what you say, but how you say it. A calm, confident tone, paired with a slight smile or even a pause before finishing the phrase, creates more weight than 100 desperate explanations. Silence can be just as powerful as words because it gives their minds space to wander, to imagine, to fill in the blanks with their own interpretations. And what happens when people fill in the blanks? They make it about themselves. They personalize it. They start to ask, was that about me? Did they mean I don't know them enough? What else don't I see? This triggers a shift in their focus. Suddenly, you're the puzzle they want to solve. And here's the real magic: curiosity dissolves resistance. An avoidant who feels pressured runs, but an avoidant who feels curious leans in. This single shift can change the entire dynamic of the relationship. By speaking in a way that sparks curiosity, you honor their independence while inviting them into connection on their own terms. They don't feel trapped, they feel intrigued. They don't feel cornered, they feel pulled forward. That's the difference between pushing someone into closeness and inspiring them to come closer on their own. The phrase itself is just a tool, but the intention behind it, the energy of intrigue, confidence, and self-assured mystery, is what makes it unforgettable. When you embody this energy, they can't help but pursue you, not because you forced them, but because they can't stop themselves from wanting to know more. The heart of this entire message comes down to one truth: avoidants are not cold, unfeeling, or unreachable. They are simply wired to protect themselves from pain in ways that often create distance. Throughout this journey, we've uncovered how the right phrase, the right energy, and the right mindset can pierce through those defenses without pressure, without chasing, and without losing yourself in the process. When you begin to speak not from a place of fear, but from strength and calm assurance, you transform the way they see you. You're no longer someone adding to their overwhelm. You become the safe, grounded presence they can't ignore. That's the power of understanding the psychology behind their patterns, and when you wield it with patience and intention, you set yourself apart from everyone else in their world. When you embrace the art of indirect connection, the magic begins. The phrase that truly triggers an avoidant to pursue you is never about begging, convincing, or explaining your worth. It's about reflecting their hidden desires back to them. It's about giving them permission to come closer on their own terms. Think about it. Pressure makes people run, but curiosity makes them lean in. By planting subtle words and ideas that open space rather than close it, you create a pull effect. Suddenly, you're not trying to force love, you're allowing it to happen naturally, which makes them feel both safe and intrigued at the same time. That balance is where attraction thrives. This isn't just about relationships, it's about the energy you bring to every interaction. If you carry the mindset of scarcity, of needing someone to validate you, an avoidant will pick up on that instantly and retreat further. But when you stand in your own self-worth, when you embody the calm confidence of someone who knows their value, your words carry a completely different weight. The secret phrase works because it aligns with this deeper truth. People are drawn to strength wrapped in softness. They want to feel your presence without feeling your pressure. And when you can master that dance, you hold the key to unlocking a connection that lasts. The beauty of this approach is that it requires no manipulation. It's not about tricks or tactics. It's about speaking directly to the avoidant's subconscious need for space while simultaneously inviting them into closeness. It's about saying, I see you, I accept you, and I don't need to control you. That's the unspoken message behind the phrase. And when they feel it, when they realize you are someone who doesn't demand but instead inspires, the pursuit begins almost effortlessly. This shift changes the entire dynamic, turning what once felt like a constant chase into an invitation for them to step forward willingly. So as we wrap this up, remember this: your power doesn't lie in chasing, convincing, or proving. It lies in creating space where attraction grows naturally. The secret phrase is not just a set of words, it's a reflection of your mindset, your energy, and your self-respect. When you apply this, not only will you see avoidance respond differently, but you will also elevate the way you show up in all relationships. You'll stop settling for dynamics where you're undervalued, and instead, you'll step into connections where both freedom and intimacy coexist. That is the ultimate goal, not just to get someone to pursue you, but to build something real, lasting, and